So today we have moved to our fourth module, which majorly talks about the the application of research methodology and where are the areas in which research methodology is being used majorly, such as report writing, the proposals for different research projects, then the articles in the research papers, then what are the ethical issues involved in the research. So these are the topics which we'll be going to discuss in our lecture today. So writing a report is the last step in a research study, and it requires a set of skills somewhat different from those called for a aspect of the earlier stages of the research. This task should be accomplished by the researcher with utmost care. You may seek the assistance and guidance of the expert for the purpose. Also, it communicates the methods and findings of a research project to the person who is reading your research. It is more than a summary of findings. It is a record of the research process. In addition to the finding, the report includes the reason for initiating the project, a description of the project, the steps you have followed, the presentation of the data, and a discussion of how the data relate to the research question or the topic. So basically, writing a research report, as we say, is the final step in which basically what research you have done, you are filing or creating a report for that. So majorly it summarizes everything which you have done in the research, and it is the logical analysis of the subject matter. You prepare a draft of your report, and then you include everything with respect to the research which you have done. So there are major steps which are involved in if you're writing a report of the research which you have done, which is known as the report writing. So there are few steps which you need to follow for when you are writing the research report. These steps or your report should contain these things, such as the preliminary pages. Then the second step, it should contain the main text, and the third is the end matter. Now, if we further segregate these 3 points when we talk about the preliminary pages, we mean that you should mention the title and the date, then acknowledgements in the form of preface or foreword, then the proper table of content, list of tables and illustrations. Then in the main text, you should provide the complete outline of the research report along with all the details, such as introduction, then statement of findings and recommendations, what is the result of your research, then the implication drawn from the results, and the summary of it. The end matter, which is the third step, it should contain all the technical data such as the questionnaires, the sample information, mathematical derivations, bibliography of sources consulted, etc. So, as we have already mentioned in the slides, that there are different types of reports which you can, formulate: short report, long report, formal, informal, etc. So it depends on the research, the kind of research which you are doing. Majorly, research reports are a formal document which documents what you have done in the research. And so finally, to see that what all steps should be there, what should be the content of a report. So I'll tell you 11 points which should be there, and which will comprise of the contents of the report. The first being the abstract, the second being the introduction, which should be the 10% of all, 10% of the whole report. It should be the 10% part. Then the third is the review of the background literature. Fourth is design and methodology of the research. Fifth is implementation of the research. Sixth is presentation and analysis of the data. Okay. Then seventh is comment and critique of the outcome or findings. Eighth is summary and conclusion. Ninth is the references. 10th is bibliography. And 11th is appendices. Now, when we talk about introduction, your introduction should be very brief, as I told you, 10%. Then review of the literature which you have done should be mentioned. Then what research design you have followed, and what was the methodology which you followed. Then what was the implementation? How was the research implemented? How was the research done? Then you need to present the data which you have collected and the analysis of that data. Then you need to comment or critique whatever on the findings, what you have founded out of the research. Then after all this, you create a summary or you just conclude. Then you mention everything with respect to whatever sources which you have used. So references which you have taken, the bibliography and appendices will contain all the questionnaires or any other, NHS if you want to attach. So these are the major contents of a report writing, which should be mentioned in every report. Report writing is nothing but a report on what research you have done. You need to frame a report out of it so that the reader who is seeing your research should understand that this is what you have done in your research and this is the outcome of it. Now, to simply put a research proposal, we can say that research proposal is something in which you are showing your interest towards a particular research. I'll give you a small example that if you are going for your PhD entrance and you are asked for a PhD proposal. So we can see by common sense that you'll take a topic of your interest, you'll frame a title, and you'll do some background research. You will find out that what are the lacunas in the topic or in the subject matter which you have chosen, and you would want to present that the objective of your research is to find out the answer to those lacunas, or to criticize something, or to calculate something, or to analyze something, etc. So for that, you write a proposal that this is what you are proposing, that how will you perform your research, how will you go about it, and what all will you be doing in the research. So research proposals majorly are asked if there is any research project by the government of India or any other organization, and they are calling for research proposals. So they send their format that how you should write a proposal and send it to them in the stipulated time and tell your idea that how will you be going to conduct the research. Or if you are applying for a PhD, then the title you have chosen, or what is the proposal, what topic have you chosen, and how will you be doing it. So all these things consist of a research proposal. So I've written a few points here that it is to present and justify the need of the study, the research problem. Then there are a lot of things which you can read, but I think that basically the idea is clear that what is a research proposal. Now, the major thing in a research proposal is that you should mention all the steps when you are doing when you are writing a proposal. Everything should be very clear, and it should not be more than 5 to 10 pages. It should be somewhere in between 5 to 10 pages. So you will obviously start with a title which should be very, very precise, crisp, and clear. Then you will give a brief introduction about your topic or the title which you have chosen. Then you will give a background statement of the problem. Statement of problem, as you all know, that It is very different from research questions. Research problem is very different from research questions, as the background statement of the problem or the research problem specifies the problem which is there in the topic or the subject area which you have chosen. Now you need to focus on the fact that what is the problem which is persisting in the title or which is persisting in the subject area on which you are trying to research. Now, this problem you will only get to know after you have done a thorough literature review. So, you need to do a thorough literature review and then write your research problem or the statement of problem. After this, you need to mention the aims and objectives of your study and also the research question or the hypothesis. Then you need to give the design, the what kind of study are you going to do. It will be empirical study, it will be a doctrinal study, it will be empirical doctrinal, empirical that you will be collecting data or analyzing some numbers, numerics, quantitative or qualitative. So you need to mention all that. Then the study population and sampling, that which population are you targeting, what is the population of people which you are targeting, and how are it is impossible to target the whole population. So how are you basically deriving out a sample out of it, out of that population is also important. Then the data collection methods which you are using, how you are collecting the data through questionnaires, through observation, through interviews, through surveys, etc. So there are a lot of tools which are present for the collection of data. So it depends that which data collection tool or method are you using. Then how are you analyzing that data? What softwares will you be using? Will it be SPSS or PSPP? These are the softwares in which you put your data and you get the results. So it is these are the softwares which help you analyze the data. Now, the mechanism to assure the quality of the study. In example, right, I have written the control of bias. How will you, minimize the bias, or where will you safely store the data that so that there is no bias in your study, there is no external factor which is impacting your study. So it rather comes like an ethical issue. Then what will be the study period? For how long will you be studying about the same? So it also becomes important. Then participants in the study, whosoever is involved in the study needs to be mentioned. What role are they playing needs to be mentioned. Then you need to give an ethical consideration that whatever research you are doing is purely done in an ethical way. Then resources required for the study, including budget. Now, obviously, if you are going for a research project by Government of India or by UGC or by MHRD, then you need to tell them that what will be the budget of your study, what will be a tentative budget of your study, and accordingly, whatever grant they have advertised that they will be providing, you need to make a proposal somewhere around that grant itself. Then what are the references you took for making this proposal? You need to mention that. And the appendices, any copies of questionnaire, consent forms, etc. You need to mention it very clearly. So these are the steps which you need to follow in a research proposal. And it is very important for you not to skip any of these steps for a crisp, clear, and a strong proposal which you will be putting forward. But in general, make it very clear with you that there is no difference when it comes to research. Either you are writing an article or a research paper or dissertation or even a thesis. You should follow the basic steps of research in every aspect. The difference you can read, I'll tell you the steps which you need to follow if you are doing any kind of research. You need to start with the title again. Then you need to be clear with the research problem, then you need to be clear with the literature review, then the objectives, hypothesis, or research questions, then sampling, population and sampling, data collection tools, and after that, you need to mention the limitation of the study, scope of the study, and then you need to mention the methodology which you are using. Will it be a doctrinal research? Will it be an empirical research? Now, these things should be very clear in rough work only when you are writing an article, that what have you followed these steps or not. If you have followed these steps and if you are clear with these steps, then I think that you will be capable of writing a good research paper or a research article. Now, in few research papers, they want the methodology part. They would want you to write the objective and the everything with respect to the steps which I just told you. In majorly research articles, they don't ask, but for your own purpose, for the purpose of clear understanding of what you are going to do in the research, it is important for you to do a background study or a rough study with respect to the steps of research involved. So when we talk about the ethical issues involved in research, it is not only about copying and plagiarism, etc. That is obviously a major ethical issue, that you should not copy or you should not, without any acknowledgement, mention somebody else's work. It comes under plagiarism, which comes under the Copyright Act. So you will be liable, under the Copyright Act for punishments if you are plagiarizing the without acknowledgement, if you are copying, if you are plagiarizing some data in your research. So it is obviously an ethical issue. But apart from that, there are other ethical issues too involved in different kinds of research. You need to get the approvals with respect to certain kind of study which you do. Let's suppose with if you are interviewing a rape victim, for example. So you need to be ethically very sound that what questions you should ask and how you should go about it. And prior information, prior consent should be taken from such person if such person is wanting or willing to give you the interview or not. So in these types of cases, the ethics says that you should, personally interview and personally show the, personally go and talk to the person if it is relating to any of the medical consequences or things. So you should be clear with respect to this. When it comes to data analysis, the researcher should be ethically very sound when calculating the results and should not, write the results in his or her favor or do the data analysis in such a way that the results are in favor of the researcher. The researcher should be very open with respect to the fact whether the research is in favor of him or against him, because according to his or her research, we'll get a new development, and according to that development we can further research upon it. So to get the answer as per your desire, if you manipulate the data, then it is an ethical issue and which should be avoided by the researcher. Same way for the authorship also, the author needs to make some substantial contribution in the research. It is not just about copying, pasting, and even if you're, acknowledging, even if you're footnoting, there should be some content, there should be some contribution on the part of the author who has written the paper, and there should be some meaningful contribution by him or her. This is what the research ethics says. Now, we have seen a lot of research papers in which there is nothing, substantial written by the author. It is all a compilation of the work done by the others, and he or she has given proper footnoting and it becomes a research paper. But ethically, the ethics says that there should be some substantial contribution on the part of the researcher. I have already talked about the fact about redundant publications and plagiarism. Redundant publication occurs when two or more papers without full cross references share the same hypothesis, data, discussion points, or conclusions. Now, this is something like uh, copying. Now, two papers who are more or less the same. Now, this is totally against the ethics. Then comes the plagiarized things, in which you copy from somewhere, you have completely taken everything from some research paper and included in your paper and not properly acknowledged. The idea is that when you do your literature review, and if you want to mention anything, you should write it in your language. You should understand what the other researcher is trying to say, and you should then write it according to your understanding. And still, after that, you need to acknowledge from where you have taken that idea. So that this is what the proper research ethics talk about. So I hope that today's lecture you have learned a few things and you will be implementing it whenever you are done with your research and somebody asks you for a report. You'll get a help from this lecture. Then whenever you are applying for a research proposal for your PhDs or any research project, I hope that this lecture will help you and the steps which I have written will help you. Also, you will be capable of writing articles and research papers if you will follow the steps which I have told you, and I am sure that it will make the concept in your head very clear, and it will make the task of writing the articles, the research paper, very easy. So, and obviously, you should always follow the research ethics. And I have now given you an assignment of writing a research proposal of 1500 words based on the research problem which you had framed in assignment number 2. So, thank you very much.